Hello everyone, this is Dr. K. Jagannayaki, Professor in MBA Department, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. Today I would like to discuss with you about trial balance. After going through this topic, the learner will be able to understand what is the meaning of trial balance, features of a trial balance, how to prepare a trial balance, the purpose of a trial balance, what are the different forms of trial balance, and how to prepare a trial balance statement and trial balance and errors. So let us start with the meaning of this trial balance. So as we know, so in previous sessions I discussed about the journal and ledger. So in case of journal, it is also known as the prime entry, where we used to record the original transaction. Using the journal, we used to transfer the same transactions that should be posted in another book, which is known as ledger. So after ledger, the transactions are posted to various ledger accounts either in journal or from subsidiary books, and they are balanced. So next stage is to draw the list of all balances. So we know that some ledger account will show debit balance. Debit side is greater than the credit side, then we used to call that balance as debit balance, while the other will reflect a credit balance where the credit side being higher than the debit side. So all balance are listed to ensure that the total of all debit balances must be equal to the total of all credit balances. So according to this concept, every debit has equal corresponding credit. So this list of balances is known as trial balance, where we used to tally the amounts of debit balance whether it is equal to the amount of credit balance or not. So, according to the Dictionary for Accounts by Eric L. Kohler, trial balance is defined as a list or abstract of the balances or of total debits and total credits of the accounts in a ledger. The purpose being to determine the equality of posted debits and credits and to establish a basic summary for financial statements. So, as per this particular definition, the financial statements like profit and loss account, trading account, balance sheet accounts, these should be prepared based on the trial balance. So we can able to check whether is there any errors while posting into a ledger or while enter into a journal. So that should be identified by preparing the statement of trial balance. So according to Ronald, the final list of balances totaled and combined is called trial balance. Coming to the features of a trial balance, it is a list of debit and credit balances which are extracted from various ledger accounts. So whatever data we use to furnish in the trial balance, that should be extracted from ledger accounts. It is a statement of debit and credit balance. So trial balance, it includes only two things. One is debit balance, another one is credit balance. And third one, the purpose is to establish arithmetical accuracy of the transactions recorded in the books of accounts. So like whatever transactions we used to enter into a journal and into a ledger, just we used to see the data is correct and accurate or not. And fourth one is it does not prove arithmetical accuracy which can be determined by audit. So there is no relation whatever we used to see in case of trial balance that should be determined by the audit. It is not an account, but it is only a statement of account. So as trial balance is a statement which tells us the balances of debit and credit. So it is not an account, so which cannot be audited by the auditor. And sixth one, it is not a part of the final statements. So based on the trial balance only, the management they used to prepare the final statements. It is usually prepared at the end of the accounting year, but it can also be prepared anytime as and when required, like weekly, monthly, quarterly, or half yearly. But whereas coming to final statement, that the companies they are going to prepare only once, that is at the end of the financial year, because they want to know the overall the financial performance of a particular company. That is the reason yearly once they used to prepare final accounts. But whereas trading account, whenever you want, you can easily look into the statement. It is a link between books of accounts and the profit and loss account and balance sheet. So based on the trial balance, next level trading account, profit and loss account and balance sheet should be prepared. Coming to the preparation of trial balance, it may be prepared on a loose sheet of paper. There is no specific book, just they used to prepare on a sheet of paper. The ledger accounts are balanced at first. They will have either debit balance or credit balance or nil balance. The accounts having debit balance is written on the debit column, and those having credit balance are written on the credit column. So the sum total of both balances must be equal. For every debit has its corresponding and equal credit. Coming to the purpose of a trial balance, it serves the following purposes: to check the arithmetical accuracy of the recorded transactions. So whatever entry we made in the previous books, whether it is right or wrong, so that accuracy test can be done by preparing a trial balance. To ascertain the balance of any ledger account, say the same transaction, whatever you are going to enter in the journal, that should be entered in the ledger by using double entry bookkeeping system. So same transaction we used to record in two different accounts. To serve as an evidence of fact, the double entry has been completed in respect of every transaction. For example, Raju purchased goods at 10,000 rupees. So it means Raju made some goods he purchased by cash. So here we are specifying purchases account to Raju account. So same amount we used to enter into different accounts. So this type of entry is known as double entry bookkeeping system. So in ledger, most of the cases the same transactions it is recorded in two times. So to facilitate the preparation of final accounts promptly, so these are some of the significances of trial balance. The next is trial balance indispensable. It is a mere statement prepared by the accountants for his own convenience. If it agrees, it is assumed that at least arithmetical accuracy has been done, although there may be a lot of errors. So only to understand whether is there any type of errors while entering the financial transactions in various books. So for that purpose, because of the accountant's own convenience, they used to prepare this statement of trial balance. So trial balance is not a process of account, but its preparation helps us to finalize the accounts. Since it is prepared on a particular date as so and so company as on so and so date, so that should be stated in the trial balance statement. Coming to the forms of trial balance, a trial balance may be prepared in two forms. One is journal form, another one is ledger form. So, this is the specimen of journal form. So, in case of journal, we used to mention the transactions on two sides. One is debit balance, another one is credit balance. So, the trial balance must tally irrespective of the form of a trial balance. Coming to the journal form, this form of a trial balance will have a format of journal folio. So it will have a column for serial number, name of the account, ledger folio, debit amount, credit amount, columns in this journal form. So the ledger folio will show the page number on which such account appears in the ledger. Then second one is Ledger form. So this form of a trial balance have two sides. Left hand side, debit side, right hand side, credit side. In fact, the ledger form of a trial balance is prepared in the form of an account. So each side of the trial balance will have particulars, that is name of account, ledger folio. So in the ledger, in which page that particular account mentioned, so that is denoted by ledger folio, and how much will be the amount. So the same thing we'll see on the right side of the ledger also. Folio column and amount column. So this is the specimen of trial balance using ledger form. Then coming to the methods of preparation, we have two types of methods. The first one is total method or gross trial balance. Second, balance method or net trial balance. And third one, compound method. So coming to the total method or gross trial method. Under this method, two sides of the accounts are totaled. The total of the debit side is called debit total and the total of credit side is called credit total. So debit totals are entered on the debit side of the trial balance and credit totals is entered on the credit side of the trial balance. So if a particular account has total in one side, it will be entered either in the debit column or the credit column as the case may be. Coming to the advantages of total method or gross trial balance, it facilitates arithmetical accuracy of the accounts. Extraction of ledger balances is not required at the time of preparation of trial balance. Apart from these advantages, it has one disadvantage, that is preparation of final accounts is not possible. Then second one is balance method or net trial balance. So under this method, all the ledger accounts are balanced. Again, here also the balance may be either on debit side, which is known as debit balance, or credit side, that is known as credit balance. Coming to the advantages, it helps in the easy preparation of final accounts as it saves time and labor in constructing a trial balance. So it is very easy to prepare the statement of trial balance. So apart from these advantages, it has disadvantage. Errors may remain undisclosed irrespective of the agreement of trial balance. So just by preparing the trial balance statement, if both debit side and credit balances both should be same, then we can say that there is an arithmetical accuracy. And third one is compound method. Under this method, totals of both the sides of accounts are written in the separate columns. Along with this, the balances are also written in the separate columns. So debit balances are written on debit column, credit balances are written in the credit column of the trial balance. So coming to the advantage, it offers the advantage of both the methods. Total method and another one is the second method is like balance method. So one can avail whatever advantages with the total method and the second balance method. That is also easily gained by the compound method, and it has disadvantage. So it is somewhat lengthy process and also time consuming in the preparation of a trial balance using compound method. So one should remember the summary of rules. Debit balance means all assets, drawings, debtors, expenses and losses that should be mentioned on debit side of the trial balance. Whereas coming to credit balance, it includes all liabilities, capital, creditors, gains and incomes. And coming to the trial balance and errors, a tallied trial balance ensures arithmetical accuracy, which means entries have been passed as per the double entry, that every debit has equal corresponding credit. If the trial balance does not tally, there could be errors in transaction entry. So such errors are called errors affecting trial balance. So these errors can be: first one, only one effect of a transaction is posted to ledger. For example, for rent paid in cash. So if entry is posted to cash but not to rent account, then obviously the trial balance will not match. So the same transaction we have to mention in two different accounts, as I told you. One is cash account, another one is rent account. If you forget to enter in any one of the account, so as a result, our trial balance mismatch. Second one, posting of wrong amount in one of the ledger accounts. For example, rent of 1000 is paid in cash, but while posting to rent account instead of 1000, so people may wrongly recorded the transaction as 10,000. So again, the TB will not tally. Coming to the third case, if one of the posting is entered twice, again TB will not match. The same transaction, if you are going to enter two times, then it will show mismatch. Fourth one, if the balance in a ledger is not correctly taken to the trial balance. For example, the rent account has a balance of 1000, but while taking it to the trial balance, it is taken as 100. Then the trial balance will throw up difference. Next one, taking balance to the wrong side of the trial balance. For example, a debit balance of 5 lakhs in debtor's account is taken as credit balance in the trial balance, then there will be a mismatch. And other case, wrong carry forwards also will result in the trial balance mismatch. No financial statements can be prepared if the TB does not tally. Hence, the errors will have to be rectified before proceeding further. The accountants therefore endeavor to minimize errors by being more careful and by doing periodical scrutiny of the entries. So that is the reason now and then they used to prepare trial balance so that they can minimize this kind of errors. Then what kind of errors not disclosed by a trial balance? So the following errors cannot be detected by a trial balance. The first one is errors of omission. So when the transaction is not at all recorded in the books of accounts, that is neither in the debit side nor in the credit side of the account. So trial balance will agree because it is human error. Then second, errors of commission. Where there is any variation in figure or amount, that is instead of 800, either 80 or 8000 is recorded in both sides of the ledger accounts. Again, trial balance will agree because again it is entered by the humans. So whatever is there in the in the trial balance, so accordingly even they used to calculate the balance. The next, errors of principle, when accounts are prepared not according to double entry principle. For example, purchase of a plant wrongly debited to purchase account, trial balance will agree. Next, errors of misposting. When wrong posting is made to a wrong account instead of a correct one, although amount is correctly recorded. Sold goods to B but wrongly debited to D's account. Again, trial balance will agree. Then compensating errors, when one error is compensated by another error. For example, discount allowed 100 not debited to discount allowed account, whereas interest received 100 but not credit to interest account. So then also trial balance will agree. So these are some of the errors, even though they are errors, but it should not be rectified or identified by the trial balance. Then coming to the procedure to locate errors. If the trial balance does not agree, the following procedure should carefully be followed. At first, check all ledger account balance one by one. Second, addition of both the columns should be checked whether we made any mistakes while computing the totals. If any difference comes, divide the same by 2 and see whether the set figure appear on the correct side or not. Next, additions of the subsidiary books and ledger accounts to be checked up. Next one, posting from subsidiary books to the ledger to be checked up. Opening balance of all account whether brought forward correctly or not to be checked up. Even if the trial balance does not agree up to this level, checking should be started again from the journal and book of original entry using tick mark. So from the beginning, we have to check each and every books, that is journal, ledger, whether somewhere we made any kind of wrong entry. So by checking like this, one can easily locate the errors in trial balance. So at glance, so I'm going to give what kind of heads of account that should be mentioned in the trial balance statement on which side, whether it is on debit side or credit, and what is the reason to enter in that particular side. So let us take few of the things I want to discuss. Cash in hand, it should be mentioned on the debit side because it is an asset. Cash at bank, debit because it is asset. So as we know, all assets that should be mentioned on debit side, liabilities, credit side, even expenses, debit, income, credit. So that thumb rule one should remember so that we can easily understand which account should be mentioned on which side of the trial balance. So cash at bank, overdraft, then that is on credit side because it is a liability. Bank overdraft, that is also liability, so it should be mentioned on credit side. Capital, as you are going to invest in the business, again it is a liability, credit side. Opening stock, debit, as it is asset. Wages, it is expense, again debit side. Purchase, debit side because expense or increase in stock. Carriage inwards, debit side as it is expense. Freight, debit side. Expense, royalty on production, debit side. Expense, gas, water, fuel, that is also an expense. So all the expenses should be mentioned on debit side. Whereas coming to income and decreasing stock, discount allowed. So that is on credit side. Discount received, debit side, losses. Dis- credit side, gain. But bad debts, credit is gain. So reserve provision for bad and doubtful debts opening. So as it is a credit, so gain maybe immediately you may not, but in the future you may get the same. Salaries, expense debit, commission paid, expense debit, rent rates, taxes. Again it is an expense, so it should be mentioned on debit side. Repairs and maintenance, expense, debit side, and insurance, that is also insurance payable, expense, debit side. Then carriage outward, expense, debit, trade charges, expense, debit. So like this, there are different types of heads. Using these heads, we have to prepare the relevant trial balance statement. Let us take one example. From the following ledger account balances, prepare a trial balance of Mr. Sen for the year ended 31st March 2013. So this is the information given: capital 80,000, sales 10 lakhs, adjusted purchase 8 lakhs, current account 10,000, petty cash 10,000, sales ledger balance 1,20,000, purchase ledger balance 60,000, salaries 24,000, carriage inwards 4,000, carriage outward 6,000, discount allowed 10,000, building 80,000, outstanding expenses 10,000, prepaid insurance 2,000, depreciation 4,000, cash at bank 80,000, loan account credit, so that is 66,000. Profit and loss account, again it is credit, so 20,000. Bad debts recovered 2,000. Stock at 31st 3 2013, that is 1,20,000. Interest received 10,000. Accrued interest 4,000. Investment 20,000. Provision for bad debts 6,000. General reserve 20,000. So using this data now, we are going to prepare the statement of trial balance of Mr. Say as on 31st March 2013. So this is a ledger trial balance where we used to mention two sides: left hand side debit, right hand side credit. Now there will be two columns on the debit side. Name of the account, here we wrote heads of the account and what will be the amount. The same way on the credit side, again mention heads of account and amount. So by using the data which is furnished in the problem, adjusted purchase. Purchase means it is an expense or increase in goods. So as a result, it should be mentioned on debit side. Petty cash. So a small amount of cash lies with the person. So that should be mentioned on. Again, it is an increase in revenue. So that should be mentioned on debit side. Sales ledger and balance. That is also debit side. Salaries, expense, debit. Carriage inward, expense. 4,000 debit side. Discount allowed. So that is also an expense. Debit side. Building. This is asset. Debit side. Prepaid insurance. Expense. Debit side. Depreciation. Expense. Debit side. Cash at bank. Asset. Debit side. Stock. Asset. Debit side. Accrued interest. Expense. Debit side. Investment. Again, this is also an asset. Debit side. Carriage outward. Expense. Debit side. So capital, like it is revenue, income. So that should be mentioned on credit side. Sales, income, credit side. Current account, credit side. Purchase ledger balance, that is also credit side. Outstanding expenses, income again, that is also liability, which should be mentioned on credit side. Loan account, liability, credit. Profit and loss, that is also credit. Bad debts recovered, income, credit. Interest received, income, credit. Provision for bad debts, income, credit. General reserve, income, credit. So if you tally both sides, so debit side and credit side of the trial balance statement, we should get the same amount. So that is 12 lakhs 84,000 on debit side, the same amount on credit side. So here we should remember some working notes. What is the most thing? Closing stock will appear in trial balance since there is adjusted purchase. So as a result, adjusted purchase, how can we calculate? Opening stock plus purchase minus closing stock. So it may be noted that if only adjusted purchase is considered, then again it may not match. We'll have mismatch in case of trial balance. So hence, to satisfy the matching concept, closing stock is also considered in trial balance. So let us take one more problem. Prepare a trial balance for Shining Brothers Private Limited at 31st March 2017. So this is the data which is available to us. Using this data, we have to prepare trial balance. So here, description. So bank loan, marketable security, bills payable, sundry debtors outstanding. So just we have to identify what is the head of account and on which side we have to post in the trial balance. So bank loan, as it is here, I have taken journal form of trial balance, right? So bank loan, credit. So on credit side, I have entered marketable security, asset, debit side, bills payable, expense credit side, unearned revenue, that is also liability. So mentioned on credit side, sundry debtors, asset, debit side, outstanding salaries, expense. So in advance later which we are going to pay later. So as a result, that is mentioned on credit, prepaid rent, expense, debit side, insurance expense, it is expense, debit side, owner's investments, so that is on credit side, rent and rights expense, expense on debit side, accumulated depreciation on equipments, credit side, accrued revenue, debit side, machinery, debit side, drawings, expense, debit side, equipment, asset, debit side, maintenance expenditure, debit side, miscellaneous expenses, debit, accrued expenses, credit, depreciation expenses on equipments, debit side, unexpired insurance, debit side, vendors payables. So that is liability. So again we have to mention on credit side. So after entering all the heads of account properly on debit and credit side, then each side of must be totaled and check whether we can able to maintain arithmetical accuracy with the help of this statement of trial balance. If not, both totals are not going to tally, then it should be considered there is some errors in the trial balance statement. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.